Hey everybody, this is Andy with Two Perspective Studio. I am live inside of the Twisted Together group for the Maker's Choice live event today. Thank you to Lizzie for with Twisted Realm Creations for putting this together and inviting me. I appreciate it. I'm going to spend the next hour building some realistic, but fake, bagel breakfast sandwich. Try and say that 3 times fast on a Monday. It's harder than you think. If you're catching this part of the broadcast, you may be catching me on a replay. If it doesn't have the little red live logo thing up in the top, I am not live, and this is a replay, but you can hashtag replay in the comments and let me know that you're here. If you're catching this on a live, you can say hey to me at any time. I'm going to get started in just a couple of minutes. There's lots of people on from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. today. I've got the flyer posted on my page if you want to see the whole lineup, if you need to catch anybody that you didn't see. There's several on after me. I know right after me is Nancy with Pretty NLC Designs. And then there's several others, and like I said, up until 8 o'clock tonight. There is Ma Dukes and Stephanie. How are you ladies on this Monday? Hope you had a great weekend and you're enjoying some sunshine and not too hot weather where you are. I know it's a beautiful Carolina day here, but it is a little bit on the hot side. That's just me. I'm not a hot weather person. So I don't know, some of you may have seen, and I know I'm cutting off the top of my head, but I really wanted to get a better full screen of my little platform here. Hey Shirley, how are you? So I made my camera kind of chop my head off, but I'm not having a great hair day anyway, so it's okay. Well, you just do like the forehead up, chop that off and it'll be fine. So I don't know if you guys saw any of my recent reels that I've been doing, but I had a huge order come through my Etsy store for 90 realistic bagels, and it took me a little bit to do 90 bagels with the dry time and painting and drying and sealing and seeding and all the rest of that stuff. But we finally got them done, got them out the door. They are on their way, so I'm happy about that. I did do a couple of extras. I was actually experimenting a little bit with a sort of a little bit different paint scheme on these, and I think it turned out a whole lot better than what I have been doing. So it'll be my new paint scheme on these going forward. And it's actually a double paint, and there's a lot to it, and I'll probably explain it on my blog better than I can here in an hour. But yes, I do know what they use them for. They are actually, if anyone goes through the JFK airport in New York, they will be in the Capital One Club, which you have to have a Capital One, I think it's a Venture credit card to get into those, is what I'm told anyway. The Capital One Club has a little bagel shop in there, and they have high display baskets over the top, I guess, of where you order. And they are filling those baskets with the fake bagels so that they don't have to put real bagels in there and keep taking them down and throwing them away and all that. So that's what they're doing with them. But that's, pretty neat. And the next time I fly through JFK, I'm going to try and get into the Capital One Club and see if I can find them. So, but this is one of the ones that I had left. I have actually cut this one in half, what I did this morning. I'm not sure if you know that you can do that with Model Magic, but I'm putting that back together the way that it was. This is one of the fake bagels. This one has some sesame and poppy seeds on it. I used this as part of my reel. Now this has been drying for about a week, maybe a little less, maybe 5 or 6 days, I guess. I use Model Magic. Here's one. They come in these, you can buy a tub of these with 4 of these inside. So there's 4 8-ounce containers, 4 8-ounce packages inside this container. So you can find these at lots of different places. I know Michael's carries it if anybody wants any Model Magic. It is an air dry clay. It's not like foam clay. It's not as sticky. It's much more dense, and it doesn't shrink quite as much. I use a lot of foam clay too. I'm not, saying that I don't use foam clay, because I do. I use earthen clay, Model Magic clay, and foam clay. All my air dry clays. This one I use for a lot of my realistic fake bakes just because it has less shrinkage, less cracking, and it keeps its, if you're texturing things, it'll keep the texture better than foam clay, which tends to kind of puff out, and then the texture that you work so hard to get in there, sometimes it comes back out again and then you're disappointed. So I like that for this. I like it especially for breads. I use salt dough for breads as well, but this is just, and I know it's hard to see on my camera because I have rotten lighting in here. I did paint this inside just a little bit. I didn't do a whole lot because I'm going to cover it up with stuff and it won't matter. But it does, when you cut this in half after it's been dried for about a week, you get that nice, it looks like a cut piece of bread. If you do this on a square loaf style, you can actually slice pieces of toast. I use this gadget. It's a saw, and the name escapes me, but it's this saw with this little bitty fine tooth blade on it. It's perfect for cutting dried clay like this. You can actually cut foam clay with the same tool, but it'll shred just a little bit more. But if you're looking for a good texture, you can still do that. So I cut my bagel in half this morning, and I really like the way it turned out. And I want to make like a breakfast sandwich. I haven't done this yet. Hi, Priscilla. I've done English muffins with eggs Benedict on it, with the hollandaise, bacon on the side. I've done several breakfast plates. I've done pancakes, things like that. But I've never actually done a breakfast sandwich. And I got to thinking about it. It's like, well, I could do this on a croissant. I could do this on a biscuit or a bagel, or I could do a breakfast burrito, roll it out and make a wrap out of it. Lots of possibilities with the same kind of stuff. So it'll be easy to manipulate these to do several different projects if you make or sell realistic fake foods. I have done some things in advance that are already dry, but I'm going to first show you how I did it. I collect these pieces of foam packing sheets. They come in all different thicknesses. I'm sure you get stuff in the mail that sometimes has this as packing in between glassware, things like that. I always save them because I make a lot of my fake meat out of these crazy foam sheets. They're very realistic once you get them done. Hi, Susan. Depending on the thickness, or you can glue them together and make them thicker if you need to. Like if you're making a realistic steak, you can do that with this. I've done steak tips. I've had some really thick, that black foam that they use for like audio, when they ship audio stuff, speakers and things. There's that big, thick, flat, black cushioning in there that's like the anti-static. Those are perfect for sets of baby back ribs, and you just buy dowels and stick them in there. So these things are really handy if you do fake foods. These thinner ones, and especially the pink ones, because they're already shaded pink, but this is a perfect bacon maker. And I've showed this before. but I'm not sure if some of you on here have actually seen me do anything like that. But these are, they're not the thinnest ones, but they're definitely not very thick. I'm not sure, it's probably like 3 or 4 millimeters thick. They're great for packing things, and that's what we used to pack artwork with these, and I have oodles of it left, so I had to repurpose. But what I did with these to make the bacon, I'm going to move my bagel back here just a little bit for now. What I do to make the bacon is I just sort of jaggedly rip some pieces, and then whatever size I need it to be, like I want it to fit fairly well on my, with a little bit of overhang on the bottom of my bagel. So I'm going to take just a little more off. But if you just have like a jagged piece like that, and then painting it is not, I mean, it takes 2 seconds to make these things. All it is the color Burnt Sienna. This is actually the Master's Touch. I use professional paints pretty exclusively for the things that I do because they're thicker and they go farther. But this is, and lots of companies make the same color, so you don't have to get Master's Touch, but it's called Burnt Sienna. They may have it in a craft paint as well. I'm not exactly sure. They probably do. But if you use the craft paint, just understand that it's not going to be quite as thick as the professional paint. And these go on sale all the time at Michael's and Hobby Lobby, so if you wanted to get a couple of colors and try it out, just wait for the sale week. But to do the bacon, it just takes 3 colors. You need burnt sienna, you need a chocolate brown, and you need just a pinch of white. The chocolate brown I use is a burnt umber. This is also made by the same company. I just use like a pinch. And then I'll take a little bit of white, just because bacon has some fatty parts in it. You'll need a brush that has a pointed tip on it. This one is a little thick, but it really doesn't matter in this case because you're just sort of slopping things together. I guess I shouldn't have said it like that, but so you just take a pretty thick portion of this burnt sienna and you paint it on there. Like I said, I have pink sheets, so that already has a base color on there, and that's good for something like bacon. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it over and paint the other side. And I'll tell you why I do that. Now if these weren't pink, you probably need to put a little pink on it first. Hi Peggy. Because a lot of this, you know, if it's stark white, you're going to need a base color. So you probably want to do a pink, let it dry, then go over it with burnt sienna. But because this is pink, when I do the back side and I flip it over, you're already going to get that multi-tonal bacon-like look without even putting any of the brown on it. Now I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to take a teeny bit on the tip of this brush and I'm just going to go around the edges and sort of scrape those edges, scrape that paint off on the edges of this to make it look cooked. And I'm going to take just a little bit and make a couple of streaks down the middle. And then without washing my brush again, I'm going to take just a teeny bit of that white and just make some of that marbling effect that you get from bacon because it has that little fat in it. And that's pretty much all you need to do to make a pretty realistic slice of bacon. Now you can make your edges browner or, you know, put a little more. If you like your bacon crispy, you go for it. You make some crispy bacon. Around here, my husband likes limp bacon. I'm the crispy, he's the limp. So we have to make our bacon 2 different ways. But all you have to do is let that dry and you've got bacon for your sandwich right there. Move these paints out of the way. You got the bacon to put on the sandwich right there. Now, if you wanted to make sausage instead of bacon, you can do that too. You just want to use a little bit thicker. What did I do with the other one? Here it is. A little bit thicker piece of foam. And what I do usually is, find my scissors, I'll sort of measure the top of my bagel and cut it just a little bit bigger. And then what you want to do is round off the edges just a little bit, just the four corners. And then to make it look kind of like sausage, meaty, crumbly on the edges, you're going to pull and tear both sides of this in just little pieces. And it'll make the edges look more realistic. All you have to do is go around the whole thing and pull and tear until you get that look on the edge that's more like sausage would be. I've done this one already. See, it's more rounded and pulled. It's a little bit small for what I was going to do. Now I'm sort of doing the top and the bottom at the same time. I pull one on the top and then I pull one on the bottom, if that makes sense. You don't want to take too big of a chunk because you want to make sure that it looks realistic. Now, I don't throw these away, these little scraps here, because these, with a little bit of paint and Mod Podge on them, in tan, they can be sliced almonds. In white, it can be Parmesan cheese crumbles. So you can save these scraps, put them in a little jar. I mean, look at how they look, just like slivered almonds. All they need is a little paint, which that's not a big deal. I don't know how many people use slivered almonds on their things, but I make, around the holidays, I make side dishes to go with holiday meals. I'll make turkeys and hams, and I do things like glazed carrots and green beans almondine and eggs, deviled eggs, all kinds of things. So these little bits of foam are perfect just for lots of different things. Or if you're making fake pasta and you need some Parmesan, paint them white, make it Parmesan. You know, you're probably thinking, like, who has space for all this stuff? Well, space is probably something that none of us have enough of, right? I keep trying to get more storage, and then I get more storage, and I get more stuff, and then I run out of storage. Anybody relate to that? I think I just threw half of those on the floor. Okay, so there we have sort of a jaggedy, raggedy piece of foam, but it's going to look like what we want it to look like in just a minute. You're going to take that same burnt umber, the chocolate color, in the craft paint, I think it's called, what is that darker brown? I know there's a raw umber in a craft paint, but what is the chocolatey one called? Permanent something in the craft paint? I can't think of what it's called right now. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about though. So for sausage is not smooth on the top. You know, there's those divots in sausage that it's kind of like the same thing with a hamburger. You know, when you're doing ground meat and cooking it like that, it produces those divots in it. And then you have the spaces on the top that get a little brown, and then the divots kind of stay a little more on the grayish side, especially with sausage. So I am tearing just little parts off the very top of this to make those little divots. Let's see, like that. I'm not going to throw these on the floor this time. Now I'm going to take that same brush with lots of this chocolatey paint, and I'm just going to start painting around here. And I'm going to go right in the holes. I'm not going to worry about avoiding anything. I use more of a pounce motion because this is foam. It takes quite a bit of paint to get the effect that you're looking for. Now I only ripped the divot holes in the one side of this because that it actually isn't even going to matter for this project. I'm just showing you this. If you're going to put a piece of sausage on an egg on a plate, this is how you would make it look realistic. And I don't know if we're going to do bacon or sausage on this bagel. If anyone has any opinions, what's your favorite breakfast sandwich? Is it bacon, egg, and cheese, or is it sausage, egg, and cheese? I'm just going to flip this over and do just a little coating on the back. I don't need to worry too much about it because it's going to be glued down. Thank you, Lizzie. So you guys like bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches or sausage, egg, and cheese? What's your favorite? Because I'm not sure which one to make today. So this is what we have so far, and I know you're like, that's a weird looking sausage. Well, I promise it gets better. I'm going to take some of that reddish burnt umber that we used on the bacon, and I'm going to go through here, not down in the holes. I'm just going to go around on the flat side and keep this right on the top. I'm keeping the edges darker, and then I put a little bit of the red on the top part. Then I'm going to go back over it in some of the areas with a little bit more brown to make them a little darker. Layering the paint will give it the most realistic effect. If you use an airbrush, airbrushing for these foam pieces saves you a ton of time, and you actually get a nicer effect and no brush strokes. So if you happen to be an airbrusher and you're trying to do these, that's awesome. Now I'm still not going to wash my brush. I'm picking up a little bit of this white, and I'm going to just swirl my brush in it to make a lighter tan, and I'm going to go down in these little divot holes, and I'm going to make that lighter color where it doesn't get so crispy in the pan. You know, it stays that lighter color, you know, that meat color that's not browned. Not sure exactly what to call that, but meat color that's not brown, that kind of works for me. Janice and Stephanie like bacon, huh? We can definitely do the bacon on this. I like bacon better than sausage too. Sausage hurts my stomach. I'm too old to eat pork products anymore. So there, it's down in the holes. It's the lighter mixture. Now you can definitely put some Mod Podge on this and make it shiny all at the same time. Or what I usually do is spray it with an acrylic sealer after it's dry, and it sort of looks like this, a realistic sausage patty. Now you can actually just put this on a plate, put some eggs next to it, and you'd have a nice little display piece. I'll change my glove here and wash my brush. So for the egg, again, you can do the egg a couple of different ways. It just depends on the look and what you're doing with it. If you're making a breakfast burrito, those are usually scrambled eggs mixed with the cheese and whatever meat and then rolled in the tortilla or flatbread or whatever it is. So if you're putting it on, typically if you're putting it on a bagel or a biscuit sandwich, they usually use like a whole fried egg. Sometimes they leave the yolk runny, and sometimes they will make the yolk hard. It just depends on who's making it. So I have some bacon already dried over here. I'm going to push the wet stuff up just a little bit. And I'm going to get me another piece of paper. So these pieces of bacon stuck together, but they are all dry, just like the ones I showed earlier. So now we need to make our egg. Now, putting it on the bagel, I'm going to go with basically just a fried egg with a broken yolk, I think is what I want to show here. So I have a little piece of the Model Magic here that's already been conditioned. You can use gloves when you're using Model Magic. Do not do this with foam clay. I have actually grabbed foam clay while I was on a live, and I got a handful of stuck clay on my glove. Model Magic does not stick to gloves, so it's a nice thing. So I want to make, a decent thickness like you would have, a fried egg. When you're frying it, it gets a little thinner as the edges go out, and then it's thicker in the middle where the yolk was. So that's kind of what we want to portray here. Now, you could just put it on there like this and use the paint to color different areas of it to make it look like a broken yolk in there. Or if you wanted it to look more scrambled, what I do is, again, same thing with the foam, but I pick the edges of my Model Magic until it's roughed up. Now if you want like if somebody made a little scrambled egg, I think McDonald's does it. Don't they do a biscuit thing where they scramble the egg and it's like a square, and then they fold it and they put it on the biscuit? I think some of the fast food things I've seen on TV do that. If you want it to look like a scrambled egg piece, shred the edge of your clay by picking it, and then just sort of tap any spiky pieces back in place, and it'll look like a scrambled egg piece that's on there. You can rough it up a lot more. You can stick some of your pieces back on it like that before you paint it to make it look even more scrambled. So there's different ways to manipulate the clay depending on how you want your egg to look. I think I want mine pretty smooth. I don't think I want to scramble this. I think I just want to paint it to make it look like, you flip the egg over, the yolk broke and the yellow sort of melded in with the white part. There's one nice thing about Model Magic is it has a slight off-white color. So if you're doing poached eggs or fried eggs or anything like that, you don't even have to paint this except for the yolk because it's already egg white color. It is that slightly not stark white, it's just a little bit off-white. So I'm going to I just rolled it back into the ball and I'm just going around and I'm going to flatten more of the edging just a little bit, keep it a little chunkier in the center, and I want to make sure that it fits pretty well on the bottom of my bagel. I'm going to flatten down around the edges and press them down. Now we're going to use paint again to give it the simulated look of broken egg yolk. Now, everybody always says that. I make them hungry. It's after lunchtime. You should be full. This is a cadmium yellow. This is cadmium yellow medium. It is a pretty decent egg yolk color. Sometimes I tone it down just a pinch, sometimes not. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. If I'm feeling sunshiny, I'll keep it straight up. I'm going to use that same brush, and I'm just going to take it in small pieces, and I just want to sort of simulate broken egg that's melded into this. Now I know you're not going to see a lot of, you're not going to see any of that. You're just going to see the edge when this is all put together. That's all you're going to see is the edge. So I'm just going to concentrate where I feel like you're going to be able to see, and then a little more. I know you're like, why a little more? I don't know. It's just the way that I am. Some people will actually purchase your creations just to deconstruct them and try and figure out how you made them. It's a real thing. I've had people try and deconstruct my items while at a craft show. Okay, so the yolk is now distributed. Like you would think the yolk was like right around here, and when it broke, it went pew, 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 all around the egg. I am going to flip this and just make just a little bit where it is underneath here, just so that a ton of that white is not showing. You can kind of be a little haphazard with it because when egg yolk combines with the egg white, it doesn't always combine completely. It'll leave some of the white showing, so you definitely want to leave some of your white showing. Kind of looks like a little spaceship. Yeah, I had to stop doing the craft shows. It was too hard. Too many people with not understanding what it was. It's not the market for this anyway. Absolutely not the market for this. But when I was doing the whimsical fake bakes and little clay critters and stuff, nobody even understood what it was, and I would be asked, what is this? Why are you doing this? And other people would come in and say, well, I don't have any children. Okay, well, these aren't intended for children. That's not what it's for. And like, oh, okay, bye. So it was It was hard, you know, it's hard to find your market. And I know in some of the craft show areas, fake bakes are huge. Everybody gets it. Here, they didn't get it. And I mean, we traveled quite a bit doing some of the craft fairs, and it just it didn't catch on for me. But I have now found my market, so I'm happy about that. The cheese, I want it to look melty. I'm going to use, it's a product that I make and sell in-house. It's a icing glaze. Obviously, cheese is not icing, but my icing glaze can be used for so many different things, and I'm still finding things that I will use it for. This is some of it that I tinted. It's sort of a cream color. I'm just going to darken it up to look like a cheddar. Now, you can use polymer clay in an orange, shred it, and you can glue it onto the top of your egg to have little shredded cheese on there if that's the look that you like. You can do just a square piece like an American cheese and put it on there. You can use foam clay over the top of the Model Magic. It works just fine. You can sort of smudge out your foam clay edges to make it look like it's starting to melt, and then put some triple thick on it to make it nice and shiny. Lots of different ways you can make cheese. Just depends on the cheese look you're going for. So make sure you give the old husband OCD double tap. Yes. I am double tapping my bagel, honey. You're so goofy. So I'm going to assemble, like I said, you could make this a sausage and egg bagel with our piece of sausage. Or you can make this a bacon. I did 4 pieces of the bacon, and that might be a little overkill, but when I put bacon on mine, I like bacon a lot, so kind of try to make it like I eat it. And then you could put your egg on top of that and have the pieces sort of hanging off like that. You could make your bacon smaller if you don't like that appearance, or you can tuck it under and make sort of a little rolled piece like that, and then glue it down. However you want to do it is just fine. I might make these a little bit smaller. I want to make sure that they're not too overhangy. I guess that's what we do with our real bacon when we're making our sandwiches. Sometimes we rip our bacon and things like that. And then we can put our egg right on top of that. Now see, I painted that bread ahead of time after I cut it, just to make sure that those little pieces, like right here, of the bagel that you can see, I want to make sure that that's covered. I think I'm going to do them all in a line. I think that looks better. Just doing them all in a line. Like that. Or you could do like a double meat egg and cheese. Like, I think my honey would like that for breakfast. I know he likes bacon and sausage, so. Okay, so I think I'm going to put my egg on the bagel first. So I'm going to get some glue. My glue of choice for Model Magic is typically this Gorilla Glue. I know not many people use the Gorilla Glue, but it works with everything. It's very effective bonding Model Magic. And sometimes with air dry clay, it's hard to bond things. Come out of there. It comes out nicely. It dries crystal clear. I can't really say enough about the old Gorilla Glue. I like it. So I'm going to glue my egg right down on there. Like so. Then I'm going to put a little more glue. Oh, take the cap off, Andrew. Shoo! I was wondering why it wasn't coming out. So then I'm going to put my bacon on. Now we need to work on this cheese. We're going to let this set for just a minute. And I'm going to take some little cups here. These little medicine cups. Sometimes I do things in. I'm not sure what I do. I'm just going to take a little bit of this. So this is super thick stuff. This is actually even thinned out just a little, and it's still very thick. My icing glaze doesn't go anywhere until you want it to. But you can thin it all the way down to where it makes a nice drip on cakes or cookies. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little of this yellow that I had left on my paper here. I'm going to mix that in. My icing glaze holds color very well. Now I'm going to turn this into a little bit of a cheddar, because cheddar is better. And I'm just going to put just a little bit on there. That may not be enough. Let me check. Yeah, I think it is. Doesn't take much orange to turn this into a nice cheese color. And I will show you in just a second. Let me just get this all mixed in. Now this is going to look like melted cheese. I don't want it to look like nacho cheese. I want it to look like a piece of cheese is melting. And see, that's the color we have. It looks a little lighter on the camera than it does in person. Now, one thing about the color, when you mix coloring into my icing glaze, it does dry a couple of shades darker. You want a double meat breakfast sandwich? All right, well, next weekend maybe I'll make you one. I'll make you one that's not made out of foam though, okay? So I can do this a couple of different ways. I can, and I think, because my bacon is on top, I think I'm going to take a little more Model Magic. I'm going to have to open this and knead it just a little bit. Oh my goodness. I want just a little bit of Model Magic to make it, because I can put this on top of the bacon, and then I can put this on top of this, and then melt it over the sides just a little bit. So I don't need a huge piece of this. Just enough to kind of cover up the, I think I want to do that anyway. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I think I want to do that. All right. I've not done one of these before, so this is the first time, and I'm still kind of, it's a procedure. All right. Now I know the Model Magic will stick without the glue to these foam sheets. So I'm going to take this and just sort of paint it over the top. I want to make sure that all of the white is covered. And then I'm just going to take some and drip it over the side. Not really drip it, but sort of make it look like a gooey, melty, yummy, cheesy. Can you tell I like cheese? I really like cheese. So if I put that on top of that, that looks like the cheese is melting. Now I also know that if I stick this on my icing glaze, it's going to solidify very well, and I won't need any glue for that either. The icing glaze is a very stiff glue. I'm not sure. This may be a little large. Let me get one of these smaller. I have these little bitty spatula things that are reusable. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, where that cheese, fake cheese came over the edge, I'm just going to put a little bit more there and then sort of melt it right on down the side there so it looks like melted cheese. And I'm going to do that on the places where I had the Model Magic come out past the bread. So there's one over here. So like that. Nope, that's down here. Got another camera going over here. Trying to do a double record today. So anywhere that cheese, my fake cheese part came out, I'm just going to put some of this in multi format. So I came out with 3 places, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do one more right here, if I can get this in here. Just coming right off of this piece of bacon. And I'll do one more identically in the back right here. And maybe right here. So we want this sucker to be cheesy looking. Okay, so you can see the cheese through the middle. And the cheese around the edges. You can see the white of the egg. And then the yellow part of the egg, where the yolk is, and the middle. And that is a pretty darn good looking fake egg sandwich. I like it. Just want to make sure that's not off kilter. Is that off kilter? No, that's all right. Oh, I put my finger in the cheese. So what do you think? That's a pretty cool. And like I said, you could do this with biscuits. If you're a biscuit maker, you could do this with a croissant for sure. You could do this with. You can make the little scrambles and do wraps, which They really look good. I never make them. My daughter makes them a lot, and they taste really good, but I just never make them. I always make them on English muffins or bagels or something like that. I should make the wraps more. Maybe I'll try and make a wrap. I made a gyro, so I know I can make a wrap. I just filled it with ingredients for a lamb gyro with tzatziki sauce instead of eggs and all that. But yeah, I think this is a pretty decent looking little bugger here. I encourage you guys to try it on whatever. Put it on toast, put it on biscuits, put it on whatever you want. And try a piece of sausage, see how it comes out. And that is about it for me today. I think coming up next is Nancy from Pretty NLC Designs. And they, no, it's not Tuesday, Marie. I'm moonlighting. Lizzie's got me moonlighting. Thank you, honey. I appreciate it. So anyway, if you have any questions about this or any other fake food things, you can always message me. You can join my blog website, thepropchef.com. Get news and information and videos and coupons and all kinds of good stuff. So if anybody's interested in that, it's thepropchef.com. And I will be back tomorrow, as usual, at 2 o'clock with the Crafting Collective. So you can join me again. I have no idea what I'm making, but I'll figure it out between now and then. So I hope you liked our little project today. Try it. Let me know how it works out for you. Send me a picture. I love seeing everybody's pictures of what you do. So I will catch you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Everybody have a great day, and catch, I think if you refresh the page, the Twisted Together group page, you automatically will get Nancy coming up in about 5 minutes. So go ahead and do that, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.